Hello, and welcome to this week's podcast of Friends That Carry On. We're excited to have someone in studio today to do an interview. We're at www.friendsthatcarryon.com. We also can be reached at social medias, Facebook and Instagram at friendsthatcarryon.com. Today in the house, before we introduce our guest, we have the friends, starting with
Eric Fargo,
Brian Romine,
and Tony.
And I'm Jim Scott. And today we are excited to have in-house a longtime friend, college fraternity brother, and now YouTube sensation, Bo Wimette, a.k.a. the Aquachigger.
And, you know, the World War I, World War II bombs can be somewhat unstable. So those are dangerous. And you got to really be careful with those. And people find them all the time because people throw stuff in the river. They want to get rid of it, they throw it in the river.
When you find one of those, how do you handle it, or what do you do with it after the fact? Do you take it somewhere, or what makes it safe later?
Well, no, I will not. Like World War I, World War II stuff, no, I pretty much leave in the bottom of the river.
Leave it there.
It's on display in his basement.
Yeah, typically I will hide it in such a manner that it will be very difficult to find from someone, even with a metal detector. You know,
Gotcha.
So how do you know if it's safe to even pick up or to move? Have you learned over the years just looking at something whether or not you feel like you can move it?
Yeah. I mean, you can move most anything. You know, it's not like in the movies where you breathe on it and it explodes. It's not like that. But yeah, there are some dangers, and I don't like put him in my car to take him someplace to hide him or anything. I don't do that. But like I said, Civil War stuff, which is what I'm really looking for and what I normally am finding, is not dangerous to move at all. I mean,
you find most of it in water, don't you?
Well, I find a lot of it in the water. Yeah, because people throw stuff in the water. You know, when they want to get rid of something, they pitch it in the river.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. And I find lots of guns and, you know, artillery shells and stuff like that in the river.
So are there places, I mean, do you have to ask permission for many of the places that you go to? Are you ahead of time requesting permission, or do you know if you need to?
Yeah. Well, on land, you always have to have permission, unless you're in a place that just allows metal detecting, public property, which a lot of public property doesn't. Any federal property in the United States, whether it be battlefield or just BLM land, out west, national forest, you can't metal detect on it. If the federal government owns it, you cannot take any artifacts off of the property that's older than 50 years. So you find a penny from 1963, you can't take it. I mean, that literally is a felony if you pick that penny up and put it in your pocket, 1963 or whatever it is now. But yeah, so if you're on land, you pretty much have to have permission from the landowner, which is generally speaking pretty easy to do as long as you're not in an area where there's tons of people metal detecting, like battlefield, like right on the battlefield areas like that. It can be a little bit dicey getting permission. In the rivers, all the waterways in the United States are owned by the various states. So every state has their own rules. Some states allow it, some states don't. Some states you have to have permits, some you don't. So you do have to know that.
And so I assume, nowadays that's pretty easy to find out. You can.
It's not as easy to find out as you think it would be, but it's becoming easier because there's so many people going in the water now. Back when I first started, I mean, no one looked in the water. You know, when I first started metal detecting in the water, there was a small group of people that did it, but not many. But because of YouTube and me and others finding stuff, I mean, there's a lot of people going in the rivers now. So it's a little easier to find that information. You know, what states you have to have permits. You know, what states you don't. But I mean, the rules are kind of archaic because they're geared primarily toward the recovery of artifacts from shipwrecks. That's how the archaeologists got all these laws passed, was the shipwrecks and protecting shipwrecks and stuff like that. But it translates all the way back to the rivers and the streams, any public water. Now, not all water is public, naturally. There are, like the Pekin Creek, which is nearby. In West Virginia, it's public, but when you get into Virginia, it turns to private. So you have to have permission from the landowners, not the state.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever donated anything that you have found to it or lent to a museum or anything? Anything that you thought, hey, this ought to be in this county's, museum or something?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I have, but most museums now don't want, they don't want something on loan. And I've had a museum, local museums, when I've tried to loan things so that people can look at them, say, no, we either want it or not. Either it's ours or not. We're not going to be your storage facility, is what they actually told me. This is with some really cool artifacts, Williamsport, Maryland, that tied into the history of the town. I thought was great. I didn't really want to give it to them just yet, but they basically said, go away. Go away. But you have to be really careful with museums, because museums sell the stuff that you give them. There's no law against them selling stuff. So, if they have something that they love and it's on display for 2 years, and someone new comes in, decides they don't want to display that anymore, they sell it.
Yeah,
and they buy copiers or whatever they're buying.
Raise money.
Yeah. So, so it's good that it's out there for people to see, but generally speaking, my advice is, if you found it and you're happy to give the value away to the museum, fine. But, there are plenty of collectors out there that love the stuff that we find, that will cherish the things that we find, and you could sell it to them if you want to. I have never sold anything, but you could sell it to them or keep it in your estate like I have right now. My entire collection, I still have it. If something happens to me, my wife can sell it and it stays in the estate. So the proceeds of all this work that I've done over the years will stay in my estate for my wife or for my nieces and things like that. And it's not just given away for people to buy copiers or get a pay raise in a museum. I'm not saying that giving stuff to museums is necessarily a bad thing, but you really have to do your homework, because they sell. I've seen museums. There was a museum in Gettysburg. Tons of people donated the collections to recently, over the years. They closed, sold everything at auction. I have a good friend down in Alabama that has some of the most awesome relics you have ever seen that were donated to museums when the old-time relic hunter died, and they immediately turned around and sold them. And he bought most of the collection. It cost him a fortune. Gosh. But it's in his basement now.
He found it and bought it.
No. Oh. His, old-time relic hunters found it. Okay. And donated it to museums. Their state donated it to the museum. And the museum turned around and said, we're going to sell these things, we don't want to display them. And a friend of mine, is an older guy who knew them and knew the value of these things, bought like most of the collection. But that money left the estate, that could have gone to the grandkids or whatever, and it went to the museum, and somebody got a raise probably. That's where the money went. So, but I have things that need to be. I do have some things that I feel need to be in museums, but it has to be the right one.
Sure. Now that's good advice. I know here at the Jefferson County Museum, my grandfather was a big antique gun collector, but way before he passed in like 1988. He had John Brown's gun, John Brown's handcuffs for when he went to the gallows, and they're still on loan in the family's name, in his name, at the Jefferson County Museum. So I sort of knew about that, but those are some good things to know about, because obviously that was done a while back and the policies changed and that type of stuff.
Yeah, and it's wonderful that they did that and that they have them on display down there, because those are priceless artifacts that tell a great story and are tied right into this area, the history of this area. But you do have to be cautious.
Sure.
Things disappear too in museums.
Yeah.
Up the road in Virginia a couple of years ago, they had a museum. They asked if I could put some stuff on display, and they were really excited about some of the stuff that I had found in the area. And I said, "Well, what kind of security do you have?" None. They got robbed like a year ago, and everyone that donated stuff is gone.
Wow.
The stuff's gone, so you do have to be cautious.
Sure.
Yeah, I didn't give them anything when they said they had no security.
Right. Yeah.
So forget it.
Right.
Do you have Do you have an actual count of cannonballs bullets. You don't keep a running count, do you? I mean,
I don't keep a running count, but I have photographs of everything I've ever found.
Right.
And videos of, most of the stuff I found within the past 10 years. So I do have photographs of everything. I document where I find the stuff. Everything I have let me just say, I have certain ways I document. I don't want to tell everybody, but yeah, so if something got stolen, I could tell the police what to look for on certain artifacts. But yeah, I try to document everything I find, and if everything I find from like one location, I'll keep in a separate thing from that location. I think that's very important. In the beginning, I didn't do that. Most people don't do that. I mean, they just find stuff and, oh, this is cool. It ends up in the big bucket full of stuff, and you lose the provenance, and that's important to know where it came from. I think it's really important to keep that. If you can, it's tough when you have a lot of little things, but I think it's important to at least try.
Now, I remember a story, and I don't remember if this is prior to your YouTube or whatever, and Jim Reed and Terry Hall were the ones telling me about it, or somehow we got talking about it, and you had actually gone to like England and had come across some, like an old Roman village or something, and found a bunch of Roman coins and that type of stuff. I might be butchering the story because I did not check with them recently, and I'm testing a very faulty memory here. But that sounded familiar. And I was just, I was kind of in wow at the time. I was like, wow. I mean, Bo's really gotten onto something there. I'm not sure how he got into that and then fell upon this, but is any of that story somewhat true? And if so, can you elaborate a little bit on it?
Well, I think I know the story that you're talking about. Now, I go to England a lot. I've metal detected over there many, dozens and dozens of times. Found lots of Roman artifacts and, Celtic artifacts. But I think the story you're referring to is on one of my trips there, I actually found a Roman villa, which was, the main house to an estate that no one knew was there. I mean, the archaeologists didn't know it was there. And, I just happened to find it in the field because they used lead pipes, and I got a big signal down there and dug it up, and there was these lead pipes under, right at the plow line, and kind of dug around a little bit, and that's what it turned out to be, an unknown Roman, villa, which was kind of cool,
Yeah.
But the archaeologists came in there afterwards, and I'm not exactly sure what happened, but I'm sure they did that. Pieces of floor tile, and it was really awesome. But yeah, those things are out there, and people find them all the time. Just unknown things like that.
Now, in a situation like that where you're on foreign soil, are you able to keep any of the spoils of what you find, or how does that work? Are there any rules? Laws.
Yeah, every country has different rules. The UK, I say England all the time, but it's the UK. Well, no, actually it is England because the UK has different rules, different countries over there. But like in England, when we go over, and it's a really big destination for travelers. For metal detecting people go to England. I mean, there's thousands of people that go over there on tours and whatnot to look for stuff. Yeah, they have a really good setup over there where you get to keep everything, unless the museum wants it. Okay, if like one of the museums wants an artifact, and it has to be a really special artifact because they have to buy it from you. Okay, so say you find some gold artifact that the museum wants, they have to have it appraised, and you get to keep half of the money, and the landowner gets half of the money. But that doesn't happen very often. For the most part, the Roman coins and the Celtic coins, and I found some really cool like gold coins from 50 BC, Celtic coins, a lot of them. And you get to keep it all.
Nice.
And it has to go through an export process, and it can take a month or two, but you get to keep it all.
Now, is what along those lines, and I'm assuming it's going to be close, what is the oldest artifact that you can identify as far as a date or something?
I have a Celtic coin that was 200 BC.
Wow.
Now, I have found other
found where?
In England.
Okay.
Yeah, in England, naturally.
Yeah.
Now, I found artifacts that are much, even older than that. Of course, here you can find artifacts that are 10,000 years old, 12,000, Indian artifacts, stone artifacts. But as far as like a coin or something that the archaeologists could date, 200 BC. Yeah.
Legible, it's
it doesn't say 200 BC.
I know
on
it doesn't say that, but does it have writing on it?
Yeah, well, it has figures on it.
Okay.
So, they know what reign, who was in, what would have been king in the Celtic times, I guess. But yeah, they can they know about when it was made. They could say it was made between 200 and 220 BC. Yeah.
So, what do you have any place coming up of a big trip or a place you're going to go or you got scheduled that you want to?
Yeah, it's really sad because I had a trip planned to Italy and Russia coming up, but with the COVID-19 scare, I'm not going to go. I don't know. I was going to go with the Garrett metal detecting company. I don't know if they're still going to go or not. I'll try to go, but I told them I don't want to risk it because, boy, I tell you, being packed on those airlines nowadays is so. I get sick like half the time, it seems. I've been lucky the last 3 or 4 times. I haven't, but boy, I tell you, it seems like I always come down with something after that trip, and it's a little scary right now. A month from now, who knows? But I'm not going to go.
Well, then a follow up. Do you have like this place that you would really love to go that you haven't been to yet, or a place that you would like to?
No. You know why? I'm going to tell you because I can go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't have any place except Antarctica. I guess Antarctica. I like to go look for meteorites in Antarctica.
That's a little different. Terry Hall wants to go to Antarctica, so I guess you won't be.
I want to look for meteorites there. There's got to be a reason, meteorites. But they, it's a scientific thing, and they don't let you do that. So,
Yeah, the rules for
Hey,
everything.
you didn't ask me about my TV show.
Oh, we need to do that.
Yeah, so
Hey, what about your TV show?
Yeah, my TV show. I did a TV show called River Hunters 2 summers
I was
ago.
going to ask,
it's
because I
on
was
the
going to
list.
ask how was it working with the History Channel. So boom, there you go.
Yeah, well, I wasn't actually. I didn't really. Well, I did work with the History Channel, but it was a production company that was working. Well, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was a great show. Had a lot of fun. I got giardia during that time.
Really?
Lost 23 pounds.
Holy
Couldn't eat for
camoli.
weeks. I was so sick. And
wow.
I was like when I came home, I was gone for 2 months. My wife didn't even recognize me standing at the airport. I was so gaunt and old looking, But it was fun. It was such a good time. And we didn't do it the last year, but they're still going to try to do it again this year. So, we don't know just yet, but hopefully that will
So what
work
was
out.
the name of that?
It's River Hunters.
River Hunters.
Yeah, it was on the History UK, History UK.
Okay. And then how many did you do? A number of episodes?
We did 8.
8 episodes.
8, back to back, solid. And it was so hard. The water is so cold over there. And of course, I was sick.
What bodies of water were you in? Just some popular ones.
Yeah, rivers, lots of. I mean, it was so.
You were on the Thames too, weren't you?
We didn't actually do the. Well, we might have done the upper, yeah. But again, I don't have to plan anything. They do all the research and stuff, and we just show up. So, but we, right below castles, places you would never be able to metal detect. We're finding I guess one of the better finds was we found a bronze axe. I don't know, 4,000 years, 7,000 years. I don't even remember anymore. In the river, but the thing was pristine.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, just beautiful stuff over there.
I bet that made for good production value. I'm sure they made it so and I didn't see the episode, but we found something good. I don't know how they said it,
Yeah,
but
of course.
they brought it up.
That's how they do it. Yeah, that's how they do it. But everything we found was donated to the local museums and stuff. So it was fun, and we always had archaeologists with us. So they would actually metal detect with us. But it was a really good time, and I hope we do it again this summer.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
That's great. And was there another TV show, or is this the River Hunters? That was the one.
Yeah, that was the one. I've only done the one TV show. Try to do a lot of them, but the networks are really picky. They're really picky as to what there's got to be something special about it.
Well, how did that one come about?
I have to tell you a story, huh?
I was saying, how did that come about? The fact that you end up with the TV show,
River Hunters, YouTube. Yeah, the production.
So they
people.
reached out to you and said,
yeah. But I get contacted a lot. Sometimes it depends, but I get contacted a lot. In fact, I shot a pilot for another show just recently. I got to tell you this story. I guess I can tell the story now since the network didn't pick it up. But anyway, so it was in New York City, all right, and on the can't remember what side. It was not on New York, not the city side, but across the river, and there's a canal there called the Gowanus Canal. It's supposed to be the most polluted canal in America. The most polluted waterway in America is Gowanus Canal. That's where they dump, the mob would dump the bodies, It's just a disgusting place. Well, anyway, part of the show was that, you know, we're in there looking around with metal detectors, and I was in there, and one of the guys there had a big magnet, right, and he got stuck on a bulkhead. So I said, "Oh, I'll go get that," you know. So I jumped in this canoe, and I went to get this magnet that was stuck, and it wouldn't come loose. I mean, I'm pounding on it with a hammer, and then, you know, just trying to pry it loose. And of course, naturally, it eventually came loose, right? But it rolled me in the canoe, and I went underwater. In this place, Gowanus Canal. I mean, oh my God, it was so gross. But I was lucky. I was so lucky because the water actually wasn't that bad that day. Okay, that night it rained, and we had to go back to the Gowanus Canal. To shoot some more because it was a couple days there, and because it had rained, they decided that they could like let all the raw sewage out. Okay, so they had what they called the purge, where they opened the gates and all the raw sewage. So we're like canoeing, you know, having a good time, and they hadn't opened the gates yet, right? And then all of a sudden, this wall of crap hits us. I mean, it's like literally, I mean, just feces, logs, and just like condoms, and it stunk so bad. Oh, it was hideous. And I thought to myself, boy, I tell you, if I had fallen in the water that day, I mean, it would eat me alive.
Right.
You know, it would eat me alive.
You'd have come back with a lot worse than what would you have before?
I know. I was so thankful that I fell in when it wasn't too bad.
You looked at that guy and said, sorry.
It had like everything. It had, you know, like gonorrhea in there. Everything. It's just horrible.
I'd be like, buddy, sorry, your magnet's lost. It's done.
Bo, whatever you do, don't roll this boat.
Gowanus Canal. That's horrible. Anyway, it was fun, though. I had a good time.
So how would a beginner get started? Do you have a recommendation for, you know, some basic equipment and maybe what to do to if you want to go out and explore a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Watch my videos.
And where do you find them?
No, really, seriously.
Where do you find your videos?
Yeah, my Aquachigger on YouTube.
Okay.
Type in Aquachigger, and there I'll be.
There you go.
But anyway, you know, when I first started, you didn't have that. But now you do. Now you can go to YouTube, and you can see videos. You can learn so much about how to do things and where to look. And so, yeah, start there.
I call YouTube the greatest reference the world ever created.
I use it all the time for, you know, when I'm like want to work on my truck and stuff.
Look, I'm not a reader, man. I'm a watcher. I learn by watching and seeing things. I learn through these. Sorry, I'm different. So, you know, I like to watch it. And if I can watch a video, because I like to cook. Cooking's the same way. Right. You know, it's the greatest reference the world ever created. It really is.
Yeah, so if you want to get into exploring and metal detecting, jump on YouTube and watch some of the videos, and you'll learn a lot just, you know, really quickly. It won't take you years.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Good piece of advice.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think? That
was quite an interview. Yeah.
Anything we left out?
Wrapping up already?
Well, anything we left out there? What else did you know?
Well, we are going to record an adult version after this for our subscribers.
Bonus coverage.
Bonus. I'm sorry. I said adult.
Get the shot glasses out, right?
Yeah. Bonus coverage. I have something I want to say in bonus coverage too. I got a little
bonus.
Something I want to tease you about.
Bonus.
So we'll just go into bonus coverage now.
Well, let's tidy this up a little bit.
Oh shoot, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Before we get into bonus coverage, first of all, I want to thank Bo for coming over, the Aquachigger. Do you want to give one last shout out to your sponsors, your YouTube channel, your TVs, real quick to let our listeners hear again?
You know, first I want to thank you guys for having me. This has been a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you inviting me. And again, my YouTube is Aquachigger, and Facebook is Aquachigger. Jump over there and like, subscribe, and all that follow stuff. Whatever they say nowadays.
Awesome. This will wrap up this week's podcast of Friends That Carry On. Obviously, you can catch us at www.friendsthatcarryon.com or at Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at friendsthatcarryon.com.
Bye, everybody.
Arrivederci.
Thanks, Bo.
Thank you.
She'll take the ring from your hand and bury it in the sand and keep it for eternity. Mother Earth, she's got her secrets she's promised to keep, hidden in her dirt or deep in her creek. Mother Earth, she ain't saying exactly what she's saving.